Faculty, parents, almost graduates, tonight is weird for me. Weird because I've been attending the King's Academy for 14 years. Almost a decade and a half of my life have been spent in King's classrooms, in King's hallways, on King's sports teams, and sadly, doing an ample amount of King's homework. Over those 14 years, I've grown so much, mostly through trial and error, which seems to be a common occurrence among teenagers. Yet through all the mistakes and changes in my life, there's been one constant: God's faithfulness. Looking back upon my high school career, I can see His faithfulness in my life by providing mentors, shaping me through times when I wasn't even faithful to Him, and finally, through redemption and the lessons I've learned. In my opinion, the greatest function that any human can serve, Christian or not, is to mentor. Instilling wisdom learned through experience into younger generations is essential for humanity. George Settignano once wrote, "If you do not learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it." Now, even if you were one of those people who fell asleep during history class, chances are you heard that quoted by Winston Churchill. It was just as relevant right after World War II as it is today in our personal lives. If one suffers, finds a way through it, and then doesn't inform others, they will follow the same exact broken path because they do not know any better. This is where mentorship steps in. The King's Academy is a place saturated with strong mentors and people of faith. God used these coaches and teachers to directly affect my life and make me into the man I am today. So what does a mentor look like? It looks exactly like Mr. Sawyer. He has only taught at King's for 4 years. He has only taught at King's for 4 years, but has had a monumental impact on the school's student body. He established a high school guys Bible study, which meets at his house every Wednesday night. Every Wednesday, Mr. Sawyer sacrifices at least 2 hours of his time which could be spent with grading papers or with his family, and he pours into the life of teenage guys. He does not receive any sort of financial incentive either. He does it simply because he has been in our shoes before, and he wants to equip high school guys with the wisdom needed to walk with God in high school and beyond. His impact and mentorship in my life and the lives of the 15 other guys who attend is invaluable. He is the one who taught me how to live authentically as a Christian and face my weaknesses instead of merely hiding them away and ignoring them. I could easily mention countless additional staff members and teachers that have impacted my life tremendously, but I'm pretty sure that would be exhausting for all of us. So where does my testimony begin? Where else besides the uncomfortable blue plastic chairs in the TKA Sports and Fine Arts Center, or Sports Center, or whatever else you want to call it now. Now, I know not everyone is a fan of the mandatory chapels at TKA, but I found salvation through them. I was in first grade when Mrs. Bev Bonner from First Baptist Church came and shared the gospel. And for the first time, I understood the gravity of this message and asked Jesus to become my Lord and Savior. My story remained relatively unchanged all throughout elementary and middle school because it's relatively easy to stay on the straight and narrow when you don't have a car, cell phone, or puberty. Turns out that wouldn't always be the case. By the time sophomore year rolled around, I had completed that trifecta with the acquisition of a driver's license and my dad's truck. I was full of optimism and excited for another year of school. And yes, I did indeed just say excited for another year of school because that was when I was an innocent little kid who was unaware of AP Calculus and AP English test prompts, so. Little did I know that 10th grade would be the most spiritually challenging year of my life. Early in the year, I dealt with relationship issues. One of my best friends, Jenny Spell, became deathly ill and remained in critical condition, and I tore my ACL during a homecoming football game, which ended my athletic career for that year, although I will say we still beat Benjamin that game. To top it all off, I had a lot of unanswered questions about my faith, stuff that I should have asked about, but I was way too prideful to. This combination of hardships and uncertainty was enough to send me into a downward spiral. I completely shut God out of my life. I mean, I always knew He was there and that He existed. I just wanted absolutely nothing to do with Him. And the saddest part of all is that I'd be surprised if any of you noticed. And that's not anything against you guys. I had just become so good at faking it that it would have been hard to notice a difference in me. I definitely talked the talk and I made it look like I walked the walk, but in my private life, I was acting with almost no integrity at all. It was reflected in my relationships, my actions, and even in the way in which I treated my family. This wasn't a temporary thing either, and it faked it all the way until the summer going into senior year. But that summer seriously turned my life around, and it all started with a simple text message. The football team had just returned from FCA camp, and we had all been spiritually challenged to a great degree, as you tend to be at Christian summer camps. And for once, I was deeply convicted about all the sin that I was living in. The problem is that I was struggling to confess my sins to another person because I didn't want to admit that there was actually something completely wrong with me. But the same day while I was wrestling with these thoughts, I received a text from my best friend, who shall remain nameless. I'm totally kidding, it's Jared Kirkpatrick. He sent me a long text explaining how he had been struggling in his walk of faith as well, and he wanted an accountability partner. And this changed my life. Once I was able to finally tell another human about all I had been dealing with over the past 2 years, I felt like a wall of bitterness was literally torn down between me and God. I was able to pray again, and my spiritual life grew as a result. I actually began reading the Bible. I mean, who knew that was part of being a Christian, right? And the coolest part about my story is that God had been working in my life, even when I didn't want him in it. Ironically, my favorite Bible verse has always been Romans 5:8, which says, "But God showed his love for us, and that while we are still sinners, Christ died for us." Notice the middle part that says, "while we are still sinners." God doesn't wait until we are perfect to start working in our lives, nor does he use perfect people to advance his kingdom. If that were true, then Christianity would be a long-dead religion. God equipped me with the skills and experiences I needed for life through using those hardships. Through broken relationships, I learned how to conduct a proper one. Through Jenny's struggle, I saw faithfulness and miracle working on full display. And through tearing my ACL, I learned patience and gratitude. All of those experiences served as a foundation built upon the one true cornerstone. Because of God's hand in my life, I found myself stronger than ever in my faith, blessed beyond belief to be attending college for free, and a future serving this incredible country that I love as an officer in the United States Navy. Class of 2017. I want you to know that no matter how far you turn away from God, you cannot keep him from working in your life, even if you do not believe that he exists. But regardless of your beliefs, I challenge you to find a mentor and a friend that you'd be 100% open with. It will relieve so many stresses, headaches, and heartaches, believe me. Seniors, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of my life. Congrats, guys. We made it. Thank you.